We're back. Another exciting episode of This Life Ain't For Everybody. Thank you all so much for the subscriptions and the downloads. We're so fired up about the growth of our audience, the diversity in our guests and topics. Today's episode, again, is brought to you by our friends out of Lynchburg, Tennessee, the one and only, the iconic Jack Daniels. Enjoy it responsibly. Never allow underage drinking. We just got back from Lynchburg, Tennessee, and I got to experience some awesome stuff. I just want to send a huge shout out and thank you to everybody in the Jack Daniels family for rolling out the red carpet and welcoming us with open arms. It was truly a blessing to be on the campus in the headquarters of Jack Daniels in the iconic Lynchburg, Tennessee area. Today's episode I'm excited about. If you guys pay attention to some of my everything that I love in life, it's usually my family, my friends, the outdoors, hunting and fishing, camping, stuff like that, cooking out, eating wild game, baseball, and wrestling. And when I say wrestling, I don't mean the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan, which I did love, WWF, which became WWE when I was a kid, but I love college wrestling, traditional wrestling, freestyle wrestling, Olympic wrestling, and I have probably the all-around best wrestler in the country right now, in my opinion, the one that I like to watch the most. He's been here before. David Taylor, welcome back, my man.
Yeah, thank you, Chad.
What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. That was a long list of things you like, I wrestling, I don't know where that fits into that category, but no, things are going really well.
I think I would like wrestling more if I would have been better at it. I just love watching it now.
Yeah. Wrestling is one of those things where, it's like, obviously it takes a lot of grit and determination and things aren't always easy. But I feel like whether you've had success in it or not, once you're a wrestler, you're always a wrestler, and you can kind of, understand and respect like kind of what goes into it. And yeah, it's a tough sport. Obviously I've learned a lot of life lessons being involved in it since I was a young kid.
I got to ask you this though. Do you ever think about like how dominating it looks from the outside watching you wrestle? Just now in Fort Worth in the Olympic trials, you're shutting people out that are 2-time and 3-time NCAA champions. These guys are there for a reason. They're good world-class wrestlers, and you're teching them 11-0. You take a Cornell 2-time NCAA champion and beat him 4-0. Your defense is incredible. You're shooting at will. There was a couple times in that match. Was it Dean? Was his last name Dean from Cornell?
Yeah.
There was a couple times where you had takedowns where I'm like, oh, he's got another one, and that guy, he just slipped out a little bit, whether it was an ankle pick or you were trying to get a single leg or something. But you're shutting guys out, Taylor. Do you mainly think that this is because of your workout program and your tenacity to be able to just keep going and run people's gas tanks out?
It's actually something new for me. I think, dating back to, I kind of really exploded on the senior circuit in 2017 and through my world championship in 2018, I predominantly in my big matches, I was losing, and I would get behind and I'd have to come back later in the match. And my gas tank, something that definitely favors me for sure. But then I tore my ACL in 2019, I had a year to kind of completely rehab. Then COVID happened. So basically 2 full years, I haven't really competed. And I wrestled a couple kind of exhibition matches, during this year. That was kind of what we had in the wrestling community as we were getting ready for the Olympic trials. But one of the things I really wanted to focus on was being more of a front runner, being able to wrestle the big matches and be able to control it from whistle to whistle. My gas tank's always there. I can always score whenever I want. If I'm in a shootout, I can win a shootout. But against the best opponents, not feeling like I have to give them that early lead and have to come back. And I feel like that was one area that I've been working on. And, I was able to put it on display, and it kind of joking because, people always kind of see me as this like huge point scorer, kind of like these like shootout matches in my biggest competitions. And at the Olympic trials, I outscored my opponents, and I don't think I've ever done that. I've never in my life blanked my opponents throughout a tournament. So, especially if something of that caliber. So that was something I'm pretty happy for. And it just adds another dynamic to my wrestling going into Tokyo.
Jaden did that kind of pre-COVID, right? The year before COVID, didn't Jaden Cox have a run where he was shutting people out? Like he went through an entire tournament without getting scored on?
Yeah, he's definitely known for that. He's got great defense. And that's something that he's definitely known for.
Why didn't he make, what happened to him in the Olympic trials?
He didn't make weight. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, to be at that level. But things happen, and he was late to wins.
What was there discussion that he was either going to go heavyweight, or wasn't there a chance that he would be in one of two weight classes, and he might have been wrestling Snyder, and he might have went one leg up, one division up? No,
so dating back, so in the Olympics, there's only 6 weight classes, and we're spread out, 20, 25, 30 pounds in between each weight class. In non-Olympic years, there's 10 weight classes. So he wrestled 92 kilos. So he was a tweener weight class, which is 202 pounds. And so during the Olympic year, he could have either come down to 86 kilos, which is my weight class, or he had to go up to 97 kilos, which is where Cael Snyder is. He chose to go up. But that's his, that he wouldn't have gone heavyweight. Heavyweight's obviously too big, but 97 kilos was the weight that he had planned on wrestling.
And did he get heavier than that? Did he get in between 97 and heavyweight and he couldn't make 97, or he was too light? There's no such thing as too light, right?
There's no such thing as too light. Yeah, I'm not probably educated enough to comment, on where he was with his weight, but I think he had gone up, 10 pounds from what his last time that he had competed. So I think that weight class was a pretty good weight class for him.
What if he comes down to David Taylor's weight division? Does this change your tournament for you as far as your preparation, knowing that you're going to have to wrestle somebody like Jaden Cox because of what he's been on a tear pretty good the last few years? Or does it stay the same? Your mentality stays the same and the outcome's more than likely going to be the same?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, anytime I step on the mat, I feel like I'm going to win. So that doesn't change my perspective. And anytime you get a chance to wrestle the best guys, you welcome that, as a competitor, so, but he announced early on that he was going up a weight class. He could have come down. I think it would have been difficult for him to make the weight. It's because we weigh in the day of, we weigh in 2 hours before that we compete. So, that definitely makes it challenging, different dynamic. But yeah, I mean, it would have changed, preparation, maybe to an extent, just because you kind of have to prepare for a guy like that. He's really unique. He's extremely gifted in what he can do and the way he can move, his athleticism. Yeah, I mean, it would have been exciting, and I'm sure there's a good chance, probability that we're going to wrestle sometime in the future, So, yeah, he's an amazing wrestler. He's one of the best in the world, and maybe one of the best of all time wrestlers.
At 30 years old, David Taylor, do you feel that you've hit your prime yet, or do you think you're about to?
It's hard to say. I definitely I've had to change my training a little bit, since, really my last full year of training was in 2018, like I said, because you being hurt and then having COVID. I didn't have COVID, but during the COVID time when things were shut down. But it's hard to say. I mean, I feel great. I feel when I step on the mat, and I definitely feel stronger, and I feel in better shape than anyone that I wrestle against. And I've always, my technique has always been my strong suit, so be able to have those other two factors when I step on there, I feel really good. It's hard to predict, where I'm going to be in the future or where I've been in the past, but right now I feel great. Just got to take it one match at a time, and right now the next thing for me is I'll wrestle the Pan Am Championships May 30th. And that's kind of our tune-up event. And then the Olympic Games, I wrestle August 4th and 5th. And I've wrestled everybody in the world over the last couple of years. So no surprises in terms of the competitors that I'll be competing against, but they're going to be ready. Every country focuses their training cycle on the quad. They go Olympics and they work backwards. So every single athlete in there will be, in their prime, peak and putting their best performance forward, and, myself included. So looking forward to that.
And the last Pan Am Games, you won the gold, correct?
Yeah.
That was kind of your return tournament from your knee injury.
Yeah, it was the Pan Am Olympic qualifier. So, one of the things that makes the Olympics a little bit tougher than a World Championships is there's less competitors. So you have to actually qualify. In the World Championships, you just say any country can go compete. As long as you just have to participate in your continental. So, for example, a country, United States, if we just have a representative compete at the Pan Ams, don't even have to medal or anything, then that country can send the representative to the World Championships. In the Olympics, you have to qualify. So each weight class, I have about 16 or 17 wrestlers. So the Pan Ams was our first, was the chance for our country to qualify. I was able to make the finals. The top two qualified. And so that was the first step on the Olympic journey. Then right after that, I wrestled, I think March 14th, that was a Sunday, and March 15th was actually when the shutdown happened. We got across the Canadian border, and that next Monday was when everything got shut down. So that was pretty wild. Wild.
And it's tough for a competitor to not be able to compete. It's that mindset that you have to keep training. A guy of your caliber, you can't let up, because as soon as it comes back in, you don't want to lose a step. Was it tough for you, being as strong-minded as you are and disciplined as you are? I'm talking the wrestler of the year twice in college at Penn State, multiple NCAA titles, world championships, Pan Am championships, Olympian. Does it get harder as you get older to stay fired up when you know you're not going to be in a tournament? Did you get lazy at all during the pandemic, David Taylor?
Definitely not lazy. That's not really something that's in my repertoire when it comes to training, and preparing. I definitely feel like I address it like a professional. This is my job. This is the way I provide for my family, So I look at COVID as a time where people could make two choices, right? You could focus and you can train, or those people that sat around and didn't really focus and train. And that was a big difference. And for those that trained during that time, those that didn't, they can never make up that time. They could never make it up. It was a huge difference. You could see in the people's shape and conditioning and the way their body looked. You just can't get that back. So I feel like during that time I improved. I was still really hungry because I had just came back off my injury, and I was like, man, I'm super excited. I'm ready to go train. But I would say, I just went, I got a bunch of equipment and I put it in my garage, and I was just training old school in my garage, old weights, rackety, like squat rack, but I put in the time and I put in the work. So I knew that whenever we could get back on the mat, I was going to be in great shape and I would be ready to go. But what you said, one thing that was really hard for me is I get my confidence from competing. I love to compete. I love to train, and I love to put that to a test and go out and wrestle the best people in the world and see where I'm at, So that was hard. Since I was a young kid, I've been wrestling, 30, 40, 50 matches a year, and to now go where basically I went for a 2-year period where I wrestled 4 matches, that was tough. But now, getting past that, you'll be able to wrestle the Olympic trials. Now let's move forward. Now we're wrestling again 6 weeks, wrestling Olympics, then this year, the Olympics and the World Championships are right back to back. So the Olympic Games are in August, the World Championships are in October. So I'm really kind of able to get back into that routine of competing, and, really looking forward to going out and wrestling. That's going to be fun.
Some guys that are listed on that short list of my personal favorites, but probably some of the best wrestlers in the world right now are Dake and Burroughs. You're a friend of both of these guys. You're a teammate of both of these guys. You've wrestled these guys. What were you thinking? Were you cheering for one as opposed to the other? Was it weird to see Burroughs not make the team, even though you understand the game? What was going through David Taylor's mind, during these matches? Does it even set in? Does it even seed? Do you even give it a chance to become part of your thought process or your psyche? Or are you just so geared on your matches, you don't even worry about what Dake and Burroughs are doing?
Yeah, I think that's that's an interesting question. I've been on the senior circuit for 9 years. 2012 was the first time I wrestled in a senior trials. That was the Olympic trials in 2012, and I didn't place. And I think I've made the national team every year since 2013. Those guys are guys I competed against frequently during that period of time, from 2012 through 2016, it was constantly like I was behind Jordan and Cael, and I think, but I look back at those times and, I wouldn't be the wrestler I am now without having to go through adversity. If it was easy and I just jumped right on the senior circuit, I had a lot of flaws in my wrestling in areas that those guys exposed, and I think when I went up a weight class, I was able to really refocus, and I'm much more complete wrestler now. So I thank those guys, that's definitely part of my process of becoming the wrestler that I am now. But I think when watching those guys wrestle, they've been wrestling against each other for a long time, and you just know, again, you as a teammate, as like, hey man, we're going to the Olympics together. We want to go win Olympic gold medals. You feel great about either representative, whoever makes the team. I have a really close relationship with Cael Dake. We're really good friends. So obviously I'm super happy to see him make the team. He's gone through a lot of adversity with injuries and just handful of different things in his career. So, but at the same time, it's, how much goes into it as a competitor, and to see Jordan, being heartbroken and not making the team. Yeah. You feel for him, it's, you provide for your family that way. So yeah, it's tough. And this what makes wrestling so hard. You just start wrestling when you're 5 years old, and you're like, what are your goals when you're 5? Yeah. Okay. I want to be a good wrestler. I want to beat most of the people. I want to wrestle in high school. I'd like to get a scholarship in college. I mean, that's success, and then anything you move past that, it's like, yeah, do I want to make a world team or be a world medalist? Fantastic. Olympic, that's the pinnacle. But you talk about that pool of wrestlers, and at the Olympics, only 6 guys make the team, only 1 per weight class. So it's like, and in the United States, we're so deep that we have multiple guys in each weight class that could go to the Olympics and win medals. So it's not, it's not like it's an easy process to make our team. Our team is really hard. You just talk about, Cael Dake, Jordan Burroughs, and myself. We were in the same weight class for a long time. All 3 of us are world champions. Potentially all 3 of us could be Olympic champions. So it's part of that process. And I think going into the trials this year, I would say, for myself, and I would say Cael Dake can relate to this as well. We've left those tournaments heartbroken a lot at the hands of Jordan. He was able to kind of hold us off for a long time. So we felt what he felt like for a long time, so we know what that feels like, and Cael and him have obviously a deep rivalry, and you just have a lot of respect for him, as much as obviously they prepared and they've made each other better. When Cael won, he was very gracious. He had some words for Jordan, and he just kind of said, thanked him for how much he's pushed him during that period of time. And, I think you got to respect, there's no way around it. You got the 2 best guys in the world at 1 weight class, only 1 guy can go. But yeah, Jordan said it for a long time, for him, Jordan, it's his exact words. He said, for me to achieve my dreams, I have to crush theirs, so he knows it. He's been doing it for a long time, and that's just kind of part of the game.
Is there anything that a person, when you're a kid, your mom can walk up to you and say, Dave, don't worry about it. You had him. You'll get him next time. Pick your head up. Your coaches were always saying, hey, keep your head up, kid. Stay positive. To become a champion, you have to face failure. Michael Jordan made that very famous. Is there anything anybody can say to you, David Taylor, or is there anything that somebody could have said to Jordan a couple weeks ago that takes the pain away? How do you heal from that? Is it just time is going to heal that?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I do feel for Jordan a lot, because it's so hard. You put your heart, you put your time and effort, everything into that, and to walk away from it and not being the guy. Now you're a year away from another chance, a year away for the next trials. This year obviously is a little different because we have World Championships in October, but typically it's a whole year, so you just, man. And in wrestling, Jordan's a little different, he's had so much success. I mean, just for people that don't know Jordan, he has rewritten the wrestling kind of expectation, of greatness. He's been on the team for a decade straight. He's won, I think he's won 4 or 5 world championships, an Olympic gold medal. I mean, he's the amount of success that he's had is unbelievable. So he's kind of set that standard of excellence where it's like, it's not like, yeah, winning 1 gold medal anymore. It's just kind of like, oh, he's a gold medalist. This guy's won so many of them, so we just, he's kind of held people accountable, during that time. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's nothing you can really say, it's just, you got to kind of revamp and refocus and figure out what's next. And, but it's just very humbling, when you lose to somebody in wrestling, because there's no one else to blame. There's no teammate. There's no person next to you. You know, we've all been through those times, and, but we're all competitors because we hate to lose so much, you know, and it's tough.
I kind of feel like you almost have this sense of emotion in your voice right now of how special it is to be the guy, but also how humbling this lifestyle and sport can be. It's almost like wrestling can literally set you up for anything life throws at you. And I don't say that lightly. There's games out there that we play growing up. There's organized sports, there's competition, but I don't know if anything could prepare you for how emotional you just got talking like that. I know that in baseball, if you strike out on Monday 3 times, you can go back on Tuesday and have a chance to redeem yourself. In wrestling, you just said it could be a year for Jordan to be back in another trials, and he has to wear that. He has to live with that. He's made the comment, to achieve my dreams, I have to crush theirs. And now he has to make that mental decision, David Taylor, like, what do I do? Do I retire? Do I gain a couple pounds and just live the normal dad bod life for a little bit? Do I get back at it and show the world that I can come back from adversity and a loss like this because I am Jordan Burroughs? And I would assume that if something like this happened to David Taylor, it's a decision that you have to make because it is your livelihood. It's how you put food on the table for your family. But man, to go through what you go through to get to that level and then to be dropped off of the slate like that, there's a lot of decisions to be made. I don't know if anything else, any other game or sport can prepare you for the peaks and valleys of life like wrestling can. Does that question make sense, or that comment make sense to you?
Yeah, and it's definitely deep. You know, I think it's hard because, you know, wrestling's not that glamorous lifestyle, you know, like there's more, you know, in the economy of wrestling, it's becoming more and more. But you know, there's not a lot of guys that are living like these great lives where it's like, yeah, you know, you make the NFL, you're making, you know, $5-6 million, you know, and you put that money in the bank 4 or 5 years, you know, you're kind of set, you know. That's in wrestling. It's like, just to put it in perspective, if you're the number one guy on the national team, we talked about that. So like, we just made the team, right? So there's 6 guys, that's it, that are on the Olympic team this year. If you're the number one guy, you get $1,000 a month from USA Wrestling. So, I mean, so like second is like $600, third is like $200. So it's literally like wrestling back for third place is 100% pride because there's no incentive. There's no monetary incentive to get third place, you know? I'm emotional because, you know, like I said, I started in 2012 and I've been very successful my entire life in the sport of wrestling. I've wrestled, but I was in the finals almost every tournament I wrestled in until I think maybe like 2012 Olympic trials. And I was in the backside of the bracket. That was the first time I wrestled a consolation match since I was a young kid, 8 years old, you know. But in that period of time where I was at my best, right, where I felt like I was the best wrestler I wrestled more consolation matches in 2012, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 5 consecutive years. I wasn't in the finals. I was wrestling consolation matches for pride to come back and get third place, you know, and it's hard, but they mold you, you know. In 2017, I made the finals. I lost a heartbreaking 2 out of 3 to Jaden Cox, where I felt like Jaden and I both could have represented it and won a world championship that year. I finally made the team in 2018. So 7 years after I started, I made my first team and was a world champion. Then I felt like I was like, man, I'm set to be moving forward. I finally kind of got to where I want to be. I can start winning world championships where I feel like I can really kind of reach my potential. I tore my ACL, I was out 2019, lose 2020 to COVID. Now we're coming back 2021 and I'm 3 or 4 years older than I was at that point period of time, you know? So when we're talking through that, like I've experienced more of that kind of heartbreak over that period of time when I didn't go wrestle. And it's no one except myself, right? I'm 100% accountable to those matches that I won, those matches that I lost. But I think I built a lot of character. And this year going into Olympic trials, I remember in 2016, you know, going to Olympic trials, and I had just gone up a weight class. So I went from 74 kilos to 86 kilos. So, you know, it was 163 pounds, 189 pounds. So it was a 26-pound jump. And I had like very inconsistent results that year. I lost a couple of times. I didn't have a lot of confidence in my conditioning because I was carrying 26 pounds, put 26 pounds in my backpack, and I'm trying to function at the same level I've been functioning my whole life. It was challenging. So going to Olympic trials, like I've had this dream of being an Olympic champion forever. And I said it, but I didn't truly believe it. And I knew going into the tournament, like I didn't really believe I was going to win. As much as I said, yeah, I want to be Olympics, I'm excited, it's Olympic trials, but I had all this anxiety because I knew it probably wasn't going to happen. And I remember getting ready for the tournament, preparing, and I had all this built up emotion. I was just crying because like I knew that all that work that I put in, I just didn't probably think I was going to probably win. I just didn't think I was going to be an Olympic champion. As much as I said it, I just didn't think I was prepared at the time. And I lost. I came back and got third. I beat a couple of guys I'd never beat before. It's like, great, I'm third in Olympic trials. What's next? And there's nothing next. So there's no financial incentive for being third place in Olympic trials. And but by that year, our Olympic coach, he wanted to bring me as a training partner to the Olympic Games in Rio. It's almost like it's such a humbling experience. Like I'm used to being the best guy everywhere I've been, and now I'm gonna go as a training partner. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that. But people are like, no, it's a really good experience. You should go. You can kind of see the Olympics. You can just go. And I'm like, okay. So I went, and I was actually Jaden Cox's training partner that year. And he was Olympic bronze medalist in 2016. So I trained with him all summer to help him prepare. And basically my job was just whatever feel he needed. If I had to be like a certain guy or give him a feel based on a certain opponent, whatever he needed, I was just there for him, but it was one of the best things that ever could happen because I had no expectation. It took all that pressure. I wasn't going to the Olympics. I was a training partner, and I was able to just wrestle for the first time in 3 or 4 years and just get better and focus on just getting better at wrestling, and I think that was a huge change for me. So going, using that experience, moving forward of all those Olympic trials, 9 years or trials, World Olympic trials for 9-10 years, this year, 2021, going into it, I was a complete piece. I know I put in all the work. I was 100% prepared. I was going to win or I was going to lose, and I felt like I could 100% control that dynamic. And, I was able to wrestle super calm. I think I performed really well. And without that adversity and understanding, like you're not in it for the money. You're not winning for the money. You're doing it out of pride and out of purely like, this is what I want. I want to be the best in the world. I want to be an Olympic champion, but I can't do those things if I don't make the team. I have to make the team first. Once I make the team, I can focus on being an Olympic champion, and so that's good. I feel so rewarded, because I've gone through a lot of adversity, over the last 10 years to try and get to that point. And now I still feel the same piece. I know I put in more work, time, dedication, and commitment than anybody in the whole world, regardless of weight class. And I can go compete a piece, and have a chance to go fulfill that dream.
You made a comment in there about, kind of being relaxed and the energy that goes in and the kind of the mindset. Explain your mindset to me real quick, David Taylor, because what I saw in Fort Worth was you had opponents that literally put their toe on the line and they're watching you kind of like a weigh-in at UFC or like when Mike Tyson would come out and he would like beat his opponent before the bell even went off just by looking at him when the referee had him in the middle of the ring. Why do you stay back and pace and keep and expand energy or exert energy and not stay? It doesn't look like you're relaxed, even though I would bet $1 million that you are and you're ready as heck because you prove it as soon as the go time's there. But why don't you just walk up and look at your opponent and try to intimidate him? Or has that been your style your entire career to stay back and pace until that ref says, get to the line and get ready for me to say wrestle?
Yeah, I mean, you develop those things at a young age, So I have a wrestling club here, and we have kids of all ages, skill level, and I look back on my career growing up. It's like how many youth wrestlers are still doing it now? Not a ton. A lot of those guys kind of fizzle out, but you learn so much experience. The big matches, the preparation, it's the same. My warm up has been the same since I can remember. You just do that. I always pace back and forth. I put my hands on my knees. I kind of like shake my legs out. But my style and what I bring in 6 minutes, that's enough for my opponents. They know what's coming. So me staring at them or looking at them or whatever, that's not going to change. They know when the whistle blows, they know what's coming. I'm going to wrestle hard for 6 minutes. I can score offensively. I can score defensively. And I'm going to put them in a lot of situations that they're not comfortable in, so I know that. So when I'm pacing back and forth, I'm just, I have a couple of things that I kind of recite to myself that just gets me ready to go, keeps me focused in the moment. When the whistle blows, I know exactly what I'm going to go do, and I just go and implement it.
When you say that you know exactly what you're going to do, David Taylor, and you're going to go implement it, what I also noticed is how keen your counters are. And there was comments made by the announcers during your matches of how quick you are to get a leg in to stop something, or it's almost like you notice something or you've practiced so much that you know exactly what your muscle memory needs to do. It's like you don't even like make your leg do it. It just does it on its own, right? And it goes in there and it stops this guy from advancing on you. This is a big part of the ability to shut people out. And when you see zeros across the board in a tournament, a high caliber tournament like the Olympic trials, there's something going on as far as being able to counter and being a good defensive wrestler. If you talk to somebody about David Taylor, they're like, oh, he's my favorite offensive wrestler to watch. He's just go from the beginning. He doesn't stop. You just made mention of it. Your opponent knows what's getting ready to happen. But do they truly understand how good you are at stopping everything they just practiced for months leading up to that match? Like literally you stop everything. It's like something's going down a track and you just take a stake and put it in there and stop the track and the production line right there. And it's got to mentally wear on these folks to see you be able to stop their every move.
Yeah. I mean, I think, there's a lot of just confidence in positions, and I wrestle in a lot of positions. Like I said, I wrestle in a lot more positions than most wrestlers do. Like we all have our positions that we're really comfortable in, where it's like, you get to the top of the key and you have your jump shot. There's basketball players have practiced that over and over and over and over again. They know what's going to happen before it happens. So we have those areas. I just have a very wide variety of those, it doesn't really matter. I feel pretty comfortable. I can wrestle in or out of almost any wrestling position, and I try. And one area that I've improved a lot as I've, gotten older, I used to be more like Wild Wild West, where it's like, all right, you can have your best position and then let's wrestle from here. You might score, but I'll score back. Now I've learned, okay, well, I don't even want to let you get to your best position. And I'm going to just continue to pepper you with my best positions. And if we end up getting another one, I'm going to wrestle to a position that I feel I'm really confident in, and not to stalemate, but I feel like I can win that position. So, it definitely takes a lot of time and confidence. And, but that's just, I think what makes me unique as a wrestler. I am good offensively and defensively, and I'm going to challenge my opponents in many positions.
When you say many positions, do you have a personal coach? Like you have a wrestling club that you work with, younger wrestlers, but is it all on you now? I know that there is an Olympic coach and we'll talk about him in a second, but what's being taught at this level, David Taylor? Do you have a coach that you consistently work with that is teaching you at this level? Is there anything left to learn for somebody like you that has seen it all and been there, done that? And trust me, I get it. You got to have a mentor. You got to have a conditioning coach. You got to have a weightlifting coach. You got to have a nutritionist. You got to have all these people on your team to make the David Taylor machine go. I get that. But is there really a wrestling coach that's sitting there and go, David, if this happens in this match, you're going to do this, and your high crotch looks a little sloppy right now, or you're not shooting right? Like, is that happening at this stage in your career?
Yeah, it does. So I'm, and everyone's a little different, but so I train here in the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, and we have 7 Olympians going to the Olympics this year. 7. So it's, we have a very high level caliber of training here, and we have great partners. Our coach, Cael Sanderson's the greatest wrestler of all time. He's the guy I looked up to. He's our head coach. Kind of my personal coach for the last decade has been Casey Cunningham. He's a guy I've spent a lot of time with because, we were around the same weight class, and he's the guy that travels with me all over the world. Every tournament I've been to, a big tournament, Casey's with me, so, Cody Sanderson, Jake Varner. So we have a lot of great coaches here, and there's so many resources where, you can ask a question in and out, and I feel pretty confident in a lot of areas, but it continues to evolve. You know, when you have the kind of, we got London back here pushing. This is my daughter.
Hi, London.
This is my wife.
Sorry.
Hi.
Pushing the laundry basket.
London just pushing the laundry basket.
That's awesome.
But you have, when you have that type of talent in our room, you know, knowledge, you know, yeah, okay, maybe A is the technique, but we're at like F, Z. You know, it's evolved so much because, you know, we do it and then you learn how to counter it. You learn how to counter it and you learn how to wrestle and you expand it. So, you know, it's like what most people are doing around the world in a certain area. I feel multiple steps ahead because we are learning constantly and we're all so competitive. We won't want to just like learn that position and be done, you know? And so it evolves constantly. And then there's just always like your repetition stuff, you know? And, you know, that's where, you know, I make an effort as I'm getting close to competition, coming with Coach Casey, and, you know, we go through some areas, but it's just, even with Coach Cael, you know, it's like for him and I, it's much more like subtle stuff. So Casey, very hands-on, you know, we're working, talking through stuff. Coach Cael, it's just like we're wrestling. He's like, hey, let's try maybe grabbing the elbow here. And it's more in passing where he's maybe thinking about it. And he just kind of lets me know. And it doesn't take a lot, you know, I'm like, and it reminds me. So I was wrestling with Coach Cael the week of the Olympic trials. And, you know, we wrestled 3 or 4 times that week, and just from wrestling with him just the feel of feeling what he was doing, you know, as we were wrestling I was still learning, you know, And I remember just one specific area we were in. And I was asking like, if my elbow is up here or down here, what do you think? And he's like, I think up, you know, and I was able to implement that multiple times in my matches. Just, you know, 24 hours, 12 hours before I competed. So it's exciting. I'm very grateful to be here with so much wrestling knowledge. And I've always been a sponge, and I'm really competitive and I want to win. So, you know, I'm always trying to like continue to get better. You know, I wouldn't be able to do that without my coaches and my training environment here.
When you make a comment that Cael Sanderson is the greatest wrestler of all time, will you please give me the reasoning for this, David Taylor? Is it his accolades? Is it his mindset? Did he prove it with his NCAA titles and his Olympic appearances, his record, his style? Because there's a lot of different styles. You've already admitted that. Are you more partial to his style and that's what makes him your favorite wrestler of all time? But you didn't say that. You said he's the best of all time in your opinion. Not just your favorite, the best. What makes Cael Sanderson the best of all time?
Well, I mean, I as a kid, you know, just he changed the game, you know. So for people that don't maybe follow wrestling, you know, if you watch a college match, you know, NCAA finals, it's like 3-2, not much happens. There's like one exchange. So as a kid, you know, I'm 8 years old and I'm trying to figure out what my wrestling style is going to be and who I want to wrestle. So I'm watching the NCAA finals. And Cael's dominating people. He's just letting it rip, wrestling, scrambling, scoring 20 points in the national finals. I'm like, dang, that's the guy I want to wrestle like, you know? So I looked up to him and tried to emulate his style from a young age. So that impact indirectly with me, you know, was really the reason I wrestle the way that I do, you know? So my standard was what his was. I'm like, I want to dominate people. I don't want to win by 1 or 2 points. I want to dominate people. You know, so I think that for one, you know, being a 4-time national champion, undefeated, I mean, going through that process, you know, I was a 4-time finalist. I lost twice in the finals. And I mean, I was a good wrestler, you know, but I wasn't able to win 4. You know, for him, just the ability to be able to win all 4 has only been 4 people in the history of our sport that have done that. So, I mean, and he did it undefeated. He never lost a single match, then won the Olympics 2004, right out of college. And I think if wrestling was different now, he would have kept wrestling. You know, I think back then there really wasn't a lot of support. You know, the next thing you do is you just kind of coach in college, and he had so much success, but he could have won forever. I mean, he could have won forever. And still to this day, I mean, he just comes in and he's still one off. I think he could beat anybody in the world in one match.
I was just going to ask you that. You think Cael Sanderson could have made the Olympic team this year?
Well, I mean, there's a difference between training and wrestling, you know, but I think in one match, if you had, hey, Cael, we're going to go 6 minutes, I think he could beat anybody in 6 minutes.
Anybody as in every weight division?
I think so.
Wow.
I think so. You know, I mean, so that's the kind of caliber he is, and he's just such a humble person that, he's very reserved, but I see him in the day. I've seen him for every time, and he's just very special, very special. And then just the way that he can wrestle. I mean, I talk about how I can wrestle in and out of every position, and he is the one that can do that better than anybody, So it's just to have that experience, and then just the way he's a leader, he's from a college program, he's won 8 national championships as a collegiate coach. So he's able to do it as an athlete. He can do it as a coach, he can share that information. So I think that's what makes him so special. So to have him obviously as a leader here, it's a trickle down effect. So he's a really special person. And he talking about, he just has set the standard, for me too, specifically from a wrestling style, he's had the biggest impact on me.
Is he intimidating at all? Is there anybody like intimidating because what he did, or when you stand on a mat with him right now, do you go like, holy geez, this guy's intimidating?
Oh no. I mean, I'm not intimidated by him anymore, cause I've been around him for so long. When it comes to wrestling, obviously when it comes to, if Cael's mad at you, that's intimidating. He's got this like ferocious stare, that you don't want to, when he comes into practice with that, you're like, oh boy, so this is going to be, it's going to be interesting, but yeah, he just has that presence, that expectation and, just do the right thing, and, he doesn't have to say it. You just know when you're around Cael, you just do the right stuff, and I think, he's a very impressive person.
That's really cool to hear you say that, because I think that if you think about whether it's boxing, you have Floyd Mayweather that's undefeated. But most boxers have losses on their records. All MMA fighters have losses on their records, except maybe another college wrestler that has a career that's kind of questionable in the MMA is John Jones, that has one loss due to illegal elbows against another wrestler, Matt Hamill, and he was disqualified for those illegal elbows. That's his only loss. But to say that somebody went 4 years at that caliber, to never lose in college, that's incredible. I don't know if it'll ever be done again. Do you think? I know that there are records that people are like, that'll never be broke, like Cal Ripken's baseball record, the Ironman record of playing over 2,000 games in a row, Will Barry Bonds' home run record. Well, that might be broke, but there's an asterisk by it when he broke Hank Aaron's. But a lot of people have their records that they say will never be broke. Is that one that will never be broke, David Taylor?
I don't think so. I just think, I think as time's gone on too, there's so much development. The kids are so good now. Like the expectation, in the last decade, it was, prior to the last 10 years of college wrestling, it's like, yeah, I think I can win a national championship, as junior or senior, in college. It's like, if I'm an All-American a couple times and I could win later, that would be great. The expectations changed. People come in, like there's so much private training and specialization at a young age. People are preparing to win nationals as freshmen. So you're talking about like that skill level of guy that's also been in college for now 4 years. And you always have the next guy coming in. So I just think it's so deep. The problem, I think it's really unlikely that anyone will go undefeated in the future. And also now with the media attention as well, you'd have to have amazing guidance. The only way that if you ever want to go undefeated, you'd have to be under Cael Sanderson because of his understanding of guidance of how to deal with that kind of stuff. I don't think any other program would be able to do that because of just the media attention and the pressure that would be put on that kid of excellence. If that was an undefeated freshman, like, wow, can that kid do that 3 more years? You could do it at Penn State, but I don't think you could do it anywhere else if there was a kid that could do it.
Wow. So you're putting that program on a different level.
Yeah. I mean, what coaches do here, the program, the performance at big tournaments. I mean, this year at the Nationals, we just had 4 new national champions, four, so almost half the weight classes. We had 4 national champions at 10 weights, and we've done that a handful of times. I think a couple of years ago, we had 5 national champions. Half the weight classes were five national champions from Penn State. So the record of Penn State guys in semifinals and finals appearances is unbelievable. It's like very minimal losses, almost all wins. So, just Coach Cael and staff, Coach Casey, Cody, Warner, they just they can take the best kids and they can make them better, and it's just a special program. And like I said, we're 7 Olympians. So we have a lot of high level excellence around this program of guys that have been winners their whole life. And that just is contagious. That atmosphere is contagious. So, it's pretty special.
There's been fighters throughout the existence of the fight game that have fought into their 40s. They've come back. There's been guys like Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture in MMA that fought into their 40s. Several other ones. Dan Henderson, great college wrestler, Oklahoma State. But Cael Sanderson is only 41 years old. My question to you, David Taylor, of knowing him the way you do and respecting him obviously the way you do you think he's okay with just running the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club and being the head coach at Penn State and teaching these kids that are coming up as a 18-year-old kid and then younger than that in the Nittany Lion Wrestling program? Or do you think it eats at him that he doesn't put that singlet on there and go out and compete anymore? Because once you're a wrestler, you're always a wrestler. And the biggest part of being a wrestler is competitor. When that competition stops, it eats at you. It's got to. That's why people always come back in the fight game, because they can't sit out. Is it eating at him, you think, if you had to guess? Is it hard for him to sit idle? Or do you think he's sitting there going, what if? What if I just put it on and I come back one more time?
Well, I mean, he's a competitor, so I mean, I think he probably, but he wrestles with us all the time. I mean, talking about, Kyle Snyder at 97 kilos, myself at 86 kilos, like we have multiple good heavyweights, Greg Kirkwood, Anthony Cassar, so he's those weight classes. I mean, he's wrestling the best guys, so I think, he's definitely continuing to help us. I don't know. I can't speak for him, by any means, but I think he enjoys, people seeing success. I remember a couple of times when you're at like a national tournament, right? There's guys that are cheap, or the Olympics or world champion, whatever the biggest event is, when you're there, you're going to have athletes that are going to reach their pinnacle goal, and and you have guys that aren't going to maybe make aren't going to fulfill that, and I know, it's really upsetting, it's hard for him when guys don't achieve their goals. He feels for them because he cares. He's so passionate about his athletes. You can see that in his facial expressions and how much he cares about each and every athlete that he has. So I think he really enjoys that, kind of helping guys kind of continue to move forward. I can attest for that just from my relationship with him, when I've lost, I mean, it's like he's lost too, because I've been with him since the beginning. I was his very first recruiting class, and I've been through his whole process with the nationals, going through, making the Olympic team, trying to reach his pinnacle thing. So I was his first team that he had, and we've been together for that long period of time, and he's like a big brother to me. I think that's the kind of relationship that we have, and I would say that I mean, when I've lost, it's like he's lost too, so he cares a lot about his guys, and that's, again, I don't think you get a lot of head coaches or people in that type of program that feel that way, and I know he feels for every single person.
Did he come to your house to recruit you like they show in the movies, or did you go on a recruiting trip to Penn State campus, or both?
Oh, he house.
How cool was that? How cool was that to have your mom and dad sitting there with you and watching him walk in and sit down at your kitchen table and talk to you about wanting you to come to Penn State?
Well, I've known the Sandersons for a long time. So I used to live in Wyoming, and my family, my dad, my mom used to drive me over the border into Utah a lot to wrestle. And one of the first places I went was to Wasatch High School, which is where the Sandersons went to high school. So his dad, Steve, was one of my first coaches. Cael at the time he was a redshirt freshman at Iowa State. So, I remember him kind of at that young age. So as he became better and kind of became like, the guy that was doing like the celebrity appearances at tournaments, I was a little kid. So I used to go up to him and, like talk to him. And I don't know if you really remember me or not, but I thought it was the coolest thing. Like, guys, come with me. Listen, Cael's my friend. Let's go talk to him, and, get your autograph and whatever. But he, so he kind of followed my whole career. And, so when he came, I'd already known him, I'd spent a lot of time around them for a long time. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I knew when I went to college that I knew that just knowing that my style and going to the next level, I could have been good wherever I went, but I knew Cael could make me the best. I knew that his coaching staff could take me to a new level. They could make me a better wrestler than what I was. And it's been true. It was the best decision I ever made was following Coach Cael and their staff and spending my time, paying my dues, to be here. And now I'm in a position to reach the pinnacle of wrestling. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but with no doubt with their guidance and then by my side, I can be able to do it.
You have the potential to reach the pinnacle. You're going to wrestle in the Pan Am Games in May. You're going to wrestle in the Olympics in August. You're going to represent the United States of America in the oldest Olympic sport of all time, which was a disgrace to see them even think about taking it out of the Olympics, which that discussion should have never, ever came up. We can all agree on that. A simple question, though, is can you give the listeners an idea of the nutritional part of the game? Is David Taylor a disciplined eater, or did you wake up today and eat biscuits and gravy knowing that you're at least a month out from the Pan Ams? Can you eat biscuits and gravy, David Taylor, because you burn so many calories in a day? Or is that a no-no at all right now at this time in your career? Is such thing as a quote-unquote cheat meal at this time in your career? Or is everything down to the T as far as your macros, your micros, your caloric intake, your carbs, your fats, your proteins? Is it really scientific right now?
Yeah. No, I mean, as earlier in my career, I didn't think that your diet really mattered, and my performance at the highest level was inconsistent, and over the last 5 years, 6 years of my life, my nutrition is hand in hand with my performance, and I started working with Sam Calvita in the training lab in fall 2015, and Coach Cael really can change my life, my trajectory of my career, and just my body and how it performs, how it feels. I had so much inflammation. My back and my neck were a mess. I was seriously considering being done with wrestling in 2015 because I was in so much pain. I just didn't enjoy it anymore. And I started seeing Coach Cael, and I was able to put on muscle mass and real strength and also treat my body better. You have a Ferrari, you don't put crap gas into it. You got to put the best quality you possibly can to get ultimate performance. And Coach Cael helped me understand that. So yeah, my nutrition is super dialed in. I'm probably the most disciplined in that area, of probably anybody, and because I know how I feel and I know the difference. So, but that's credit to my wife for sure, because, she's always kind of keep me on track, helping me stay, I wouldn't say disciplined. Like it's easy for me to stay disciplined because I know I'm disciplined, the success that I can have, but she's the one that's doing all the cooking, and preparation and stuff like that, and to kind of help me in that area. But yeah, it's super dialed in.
So she kind of knew what she was getting into with dating you and then saying, yes, I do, saying yes to the engagement and then I do at the wedding, because I would assume that being married to a wrestler, it has the tendency to be so like organized, so like down to a T, to where you can't just go out on a Saturday night and go have some drinks and go dance until 3 a.m. because you got to keep that regimen going. How much has it changed her life knowing that she's got to be on that regimented discipline with you and the cooking and the nutrition? Or did she already have that mindset and that's what attracted you two together in the first place?
I don't think she quite knew, like what it was going to be. My wife wrestled when she was younger, so she's been around wrestling for a long time. But at the time when we were dating, I wasn't that serious about that kind of stuff. I wasn't. Nutrition, diet wasn't a big priority for me. But quickly after that, it really did. So she wants me to be successful. It's a family. It's not my commitment. It's not just my dedication and sacrifice. It's my wife's more than anyone, you can't live a normal lifestyle. You can't go out to eat. You can't go, do stuff all the time. Just go on vacations whenever you want to, it's a tough, you can do that, but you won't win. You won't win. Not that level. You need the 1%. You need that. And that stuff, when you talk about being at peace, when you compete, it's a It's not just my commitment. It's a family commitment, you know, and so it takes an amazing supportive wife, you know, to do this with me, you know, to have that journey, you know, be able to make it a reality. So, she's an amazing woman. You know, I'm very, very blessed.
That's awesome to hear. And I know that we're coming to an end. I want to do this again after the Pan Ams, celebrate your championship there and talk wrestling going into the Olympics. I just have one more question for you. Do you get nervous, David Taylor? Is it impossible to say that fighters and wrestlers don't get nervous before a match? Or are you so ready and hungry that the nervous is gone at this point in your career?
No, I mean, nerves are good, man. That means your body's ready to go out there and scrap. So I get nervous for sure, you know, but that nerves is good. It's excitement. It's your body like ready to go to battle. You know, you put all that hard work to test, you know, in the times that I haven't been a little nervous, that's when I perform my worst, because you're just like, you don't care. You're careless, you know, but when you have that little heightened, you know, the hair on the back of your neck standing up, you're ready to go out there, and that first whistle blows, but then it goes away. You know, you're ready to get after it. You know, and now you just got 6 minutes. Wrestle the hardest 6 minutes of your life, and then move on to the next match. So it's all part of the process.
I'm going to let you go, but I got to know this, David Taylor. You're driving through. Iowa's probably known for the wrestling state in the country. At least when I was growing up, you always heard of Iowa. You always heard of Dan Gable. You always heard of how big it was. It's always been big in Pennsylvania and other states in that part of the country, Michigan, other areas. Give me the David Taylor. You're driving through Iowa and you see this sign that says the new wrestling Mount Rushmore. We know the real Mount Rushmore of the presidents is in South Dakota, but now they're going to make a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers in the state of Iowa, and you're going to go look at it because you were the one that was able to pick the wrestlers to be on it. Who's on that Mount Rushmore? Can you even narrow them down?
What is that? 4?
Yep,
5?
4.
4?
4.
Oh boy.
I know one of them for sure. We already know one of them.
Yeah, Coach Cael for sure. Oh,
while you're thinking, I'm just going to ask you questions to see, would John Smith be on there?
Yeah, Coach Cael, John Smith.
Would Dan Gable be on there?
Dan Gable for sure. That's 3. 4.
Okay, those are my 3 that I would have on mine. The 4th one is hard for me too.
Yeah, 4th one's tough. You know, there's so many quality competitors. I would say maybe for the impact of the sport, maybe you think Dave Schultz right now, just because of, I think maybe, his life was taken a little before, maybe he could have continued to achieve what he did, but he just trying to change the sport the way that he was and the impact that he had still to this day, so very well respected. He might be number 4.
Jordan's not on there yet.
Jordan's still competing. I think he's still competing. Obviously, if he decided he was done, I think he'd be up there. I was thinking between Jordan and Schultz. Those are the 2 guys, and I lean Schultz just because he's, obviously he's done wrestler. Jordan still can add to what he's doing. But maybe he's probably really he's close. You have the Brand
brother. You have the Brand brothers. You have McElravy. You have a lot of there. I can name a lot of wrestlers. You could name a lot more. Give me one before I let you go, David Taylor. Give me the one wrestler that you would love to wrestle that you haven't had the chance to, or you might never be able to in the history of the game.
I think Sadulayev from Russia. I think if I ever had a chance, he's the king. He's the pound for pound right now. And if I had the opportunity to wrestle him, I think that would be a fun match.
I love it, man. I'm so, I don't know if it's humbling to have you on here because I think humility comes in a lot bigger forms, and I'm teaching myself that. I'm learning that in my life, that you hear people say, well, that humbled me, or, it's so humbling to get to go on a turkey hunt. And I think that there's different ways to look at that, but having you on here means the world to me because like you are literally the top of the top right now in the hardest game in the world. Like if you want to be a good UFC champion, it used to be the Gracies and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then, you got your guys that have good stand-up and good submissions. But if you don't have a wrestling base, you're probably not going to go very far in the MMA game. I don't know if Rogan would agree with that, but I think he would with his respect for wrestlers. And the top fighters in the game are all wrestler-based. But to have you on here, David Taylor, and to know what you're getting ready to do in the Pan Ams and the Olympics, thank you very much. Good luck to you. I know it's going to be awesome results because of your mindset. It's an amazing mindset to learn more and more about. And man, I wish you the best of luck, and I truly appreciate having you on.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. Looking forward to come back.
And I do want to roll with you one day. I just, not that I could ever even get in on you. I'm not a wrestler by any means compared to you, but I just would like to tell somebody like, yeah, I wrestled David Taylor. I scrapped with David Taylor, and I scored on David Taylor. Maybe I'll even pin David Taylor. Don't laugh at me, David Taylor. I see you laughing right now. You the man, brother. I appreciate you. I'll be in touch, and we'll get another one on the books. That's David Taylor, my favorite wrestler in the world. You can't say he's the best right now, but he will be on that Mount Rushmore one day. Mark my words. That's This Life Ain't For Everybody podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please support the partners and sponsors that support us. Tom, Jake, hit that button. This is Leith Lofton. What you gonna do when the money's all gone?
I'd rather be poor, living off in a hole, rich as hell without a soul. Life on earth.